Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include Pablo Escobar, lying to Congress, and baby factories.
Wrong! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you people? Wrong!
You do have to tolerate it. It's my show.
I am Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! Cocaine Hippos. Gosh, that is a great name for a band. Cocaine Hippos. If I ever start a band, which will be never, I'm definitely naming it Cocaine Hippos. There's 2 things you need to know about hippopotamuses. Hippopotami. First, there's 3 things you need to know about hippopotami. First is that the plural of hippopotamus is hippopotami. Second, a group of hippopotami is known as a bloat. It's a bloat of hippopotamus. Isn't that a great name? Everybody's always focused on, the murder of ravens, but a bloat of hippopotamus? That's pretty good. The third thing you need to know is that hippopotami are now considered people. That's right, they're people. They're legally people in the United States. How and why is a hippopotamus a person? Somebody please explain it to me. Oh, wait, that's my job here. Okay, I'll explain it to you. So, Pablo Escobar, the infamous, that means more than famous. The infamous drug lord Pablo Escobar, he smuggled in 4 hippopotami into Colombia at the height of his powers because he had all the money in the world, and apparently that means you have the resources to smuggle hippopotamus. And he was eventually killed, and, his empire was kind of broken up, and his hippos, they were set free, or they got free. Somebody stopped taking care of them and let them loose. I don't know how they got loose, but they have been living it up in Colombia without any natural predators, in the perfect environment for them. And those 4 hippos have flourished. And now they are a bloat of 80 hippos. That's right. That's a large bloat. There's 80 of them, and they are causing havoc. First off, hippos aren't safe animals. They're dangerous. And without any natural predators, they're going to town on the natural, on the environment there in Colombia. So the Colombians are like, all right, we got to do something about the hippos. Let's kill them. And some animal rights activists are like, no, you can't kill them. Don't kill them. Instead of killing them, we should sterilize them, and that will take care of the problem. They'll finish out their lives, and there won't be any more hippos, in the next couple decades. I don't know how long hippos live. I should have looked that up, maybe. Maybe you know how long hippos live, and you can tell me by emailing me at listen@therewrongpodcast.com. So, if we sterilize the hippos will go away. Well, some people don't want to sterilize the hippos. They just want to kill them. And so an animal rights group here in the United States wanted to present evidence that sterilizing hippos is the way to go. But to get people to listen to the experts, they need to do a deposition. They have to do a legal interview with them. And in order to do a deposition, somebody needs to request the deposition. And there's nobody to request the deposition other than hippos. So an animal rights group here in the U.S. said, Judge, you got to declare the hippos as people so that somebody can testify on their behalf. And the judge said, cool, hippos are people. Now the problem is, this is all happening in the United States, and the hippos are in Colombia. So I don't know if it's going to have any impact at all. And I'm confused at why, if it's so important, why we don't just fly the hippo sterilizing experts down to Colombia so that they can testify in person in Colombia. That seems like a better route than to have the laws made up here in the United States, which have nothing to do with Colombia. Issue number 2, gain of function. Oh, I'm so excited about this. This is exactly why you're listening to this podcast, because this is exactly in my wheelhouse. This is super complicated, and I'm going to explain it all to you. There's this thing in virology called gain of function research, where the scientists, they're like, hey, this super dangerous virus, we should change it and make it more dangerous so that we can study it. And people are like, no, why would you change the dangerous virus and make it more dangerous? That seems dumb. And the scientists are like, no, it's cool. It's cool because we got this secure lab and we're going to change it. That way we can anticipate for in the future if it changes on its own, if it mutates on its own, we'll be ready for it because we've already researched what it's like if it starts to mutate and gains extra functions. So the United States, this has been going on, and, let's hope that when this happens, the labs are actually secure or they get rid of the virus after they add the function. Seems sketchy, and in particular because there's all these rumors that COVID-19 escaped from the Wuhan virology lab. So there's been these accusations that Anthony Fauci actually funded gain of function research in the Wuhan lab. And he was been confronted about it by Rand Paul. It kind of went viral. It made the news. Listen to this clip between Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci. It got heated.
This research matches, these are Dr. Ebright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
Now, if you've heard Fauci at all, you know he's a pretty mild-mannered guy, and that was about as exasperated as I've ever heard him. Well, it just came out recently that, in fact, gain of function research was funded in the Wuhan lab with NIH money, with U.S. government money. And people are saying, oh, Fauci's screwed now. We are going to get him. There's people who view Anthony Fauci as this little Hitler. He's out to destroy everybody's lives and take away all their freedoms. And because of that, people hate him. He's the focus of the libertarian anger, the personal freedom, the people who are most concerned about personal freedom over the health and safety of the population. It's more important that we protect people's rights. So he's the object of their scorn because he's the one making recommendations that liberties be suspended or curtailed. And they're like, we're going to get him now. We've got him. He lied to Congress. He lied in this Senate hearing to Senator Rand Paul. Well, it's not quite that simple. So, between 2014 and 2017, the NIH, the National Institute of Health, they said, hey, we're going to put a hold on all funding for gain of function research, categorically. No money goes to gain of function research. Well, this money did go to the Wuhan lab in that time. But it didn't go exactly to the Wuhan lab. Instead, NIH gave a grant. Somebody applied for a grant from them, and the NIH gave money to this other lab that was doing research. And while this lab was doing research on some virus, I think it might have even been the coronavirus, they said, hey, you know what? The Wuhan lab, they have the ability to do something that we can't do. So we're going to give some of our money to them. So it passed from the NIH to this other lab onto the Wuhan lab. It wasn't a direct grant, but it's kind of like the shell game. Like, hey, maybe we can't give money to the Wuhan lab for, this kind of research, but maybe if we give it to this other group, they can do it for us. That's kind of the allegation that's going on. And I don't know if Fauci knew that this lab was giving their money to the Wuhan lab or not, but it was probably stipulated in the grant that they got that they cannot use the money for gain of function research. And they did. Or did they? Well, it turns out that they were studying a virus, and as they were studying a virus, they gave it to a mouse. They injected a mouse with it. And to their surprise, the virus infected the mouse. It wasn't supposed to. It had never done that before. And they weren't intending to create a virus that could infect the mouse, but it turns out they did. They accidentally gave this virus an additional function that it didn't have before. Namely, that it could now infect mice. Now, there is a famous drug known as Viagra that was being researched for heart attacks, I believe. And it turned out that it had an additional function that nobody expected. And hey-o! The morning drive time is really wacky out there today.
Wrong!
So sometimes this happens. Sometimes you're researching a drug or a virus, or you're researching something and it gives you something that you didn't anticipate when you were researching it. And that's the case with this money. It went to study a virus. They didn't intend to give it a gain of function, but they did. And now that virus can infect mice. So it was an accident. So is Fauci in trouble? Well, it turns out that even though that this money did in fact go to a research study that did in fact produce a gain of function in a virus, it actually didn't violate the hold that the NIH had put on this kind of research. When the NIH put this hold on all their money, they were very specific about what kind of research could not be done with it. And they said no money goes to gain of function research toward human infection. You can't intentionally change a virus to infect humans. So yes, this virus did gain a new function, but it didn't gain a function of infecting humans, only mice. So Fauci is, I'm sorry to say, if you were excited for Fauci to go to jail over this, guess what time it is?
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@thewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, thewrongpodcast.com, and help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Listener Michael has this to say. I'm enjoying your podcast. I thought you handled the complexities of language and gender clearly and respectfully. Living in a country, Malaysia, that uses English widely but remains culturally conservative, the gap between progressive American English and English in other places increases. I can imagine. Yes, Thank you, Michael. First, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. And I can only imagine how English separates itself in the United States from places like Malaysia. Issue number 3. Rent a womb. Okay, there is a big problem with prostitution. If you didn't know this, I'm just going to lay it out. Prostitution is wrong. Prostitution exploits women. It's men totally misusing and mistreating women, specifically to gain access to their bodies. And there's people who have no problem with it, and I think they're short-sighted. I think that prostitution, no matter the circumstance or the parameters or the rules governing it, it hurts human beings. It hurts not only the women, but it hurts the men who are engaged in it. I heard this great quote from Rashida Jones talking about pornography this week. Let me just play that for you.
You see the same loving parents that I see all around me with the kids at school. I mean, she's in all these activities in high school. Her mother has made scrapbooks, and her father has nicknames for her, and they're really close, and they go out and do things together, and the parents are together. It's not the story that you think. And it makes you feel like, where does that come from in society, that someone that was sort of given everything they needed?
But because it's not considered a step down. That's what I'm saying. Like, when the most famous woman in the world started her career with an amateur porn tape, and we know who I'm talking about, it's impossible to tell an 18-year-old girl that is not a viable option. It's impossible. Like, you have no proof. You're just wrong.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's glamorous. And by the way, just to mention, ironically, the only legal difference between porn and prostitution is a camera. And so a lot of these girls, they go on castings and they go on jobs, and there's a guy with a camera and he never turns it on. So,
oh my gosh.
And think about how this country feels about prostitution.
Totally right. This should be obvious to anybody. Like, pornography is prostitution. It's legalized pornography. It's legalized prostitution. You're paying a woman to have sex. You're just not paying her to have sex with you. You're paying her to have sex with some other guy who you're also paying to prostitute himself. It's wrong, and we really need to think about how it's impacting us as a culture and the damage it's doing to the people engaged in it. Well, the story doesn't stop there. And here's a tale of two stories. Recently, Oregon made it totally legal for compensated surrogacy. At the same time, France made it completely illegal for compensated surrogacy. That's right. France, this libertine, socially liberal place, has tougher rules on both abortion and surrogacy than Oregon does. Surrogacy is when you get someone to get pregnant for you, either through, hopefully let's not get into the specifics of how the woman gets pregnant, but the surrogate gets pregnant and she carries a child for 9 months, and then she gives the child to someone else at the end of the pregnancy. So Oregon has said, hey, if you want to pay somebody to do this, that's cool with us. Great. And France says, no, this is not working out. We're not doing that here anymore because it is exploitative of women. It's causing people to do things that they wouldn't choose to do because you're offering them a gob of money. And that's having a negative impact on these surrogates. Now, last week I had mentioned the author Margaret Atwood and her novel Handmaid's Tale, which is also a popular series. I believe it's on Hulu or Amazon Prime. I don't know. I think it's on Hulu. Somebody's screaming at me right now. Sorry, I've never seen it. But let me give you, that won't stop me from giving you a synopsis of what it's about. It's about this dystopian society where women are forced by the elite conservative Christians in their country who are ruling the government. Women are forced to bear babies for them. And what's interesting to me about the story is this situation isn't some futuristic dystopian thing that might happen. It's not fictitious. It's actually happening right now. Right now, this story is playing out. Wealthy elites in the world are forcing women to bear children for them. The only difference is they're not doing it through government power. They're doing it through money. People, mainly gay men, are going to countries like Bangladesh and Nepal and paying women to bear their children for them. And you need to understand that if you walk into a country like Nepal with crippling poverty and offer a woman $20,000, she has no choice but to go along with what you're saying. You didn't make the poverty, but you're using power to be sure. You're sidling up alongside the power of that poverty with your money, and you are making her choose something that she has no choice but to go along with. She needs that money. This is life-changing money. And there are literal baby factories set up in these countries where people go and these women get pregnant, and then 9 months later, they're taken care of or whatever. They've got housing, they've got a doctor. Then 9 months later, the baby's born, and somebody comes in and scoops the baby up and takes it back to their first world country. And this is a messed up system. It is like, it's just kind of gross that this is going on. And it's gross that people have the money to make this kind of system happen. Like, I can't even imagine the legal process to get this all to work. First off, when a surrogate bears a child and gives that child to somebody else, those other people have to adopt that baby from the surrogate. The surrogate is the legal mother, and for good reason. And then, after that adoption takes place, you've got to get all the paperwork to get that child back to the United States. This is not an easy thing to do. You're paying not just for the surrogacy, you're paying for all the adoption paperwork and all the travel. Like, this is a big deal, and I don't know how people figured out how to do this, but I guess kudos for figuring out a path. Here's the deal. Adoption is very important to me. Adoption has impacted my family, and I love adoption. I love adoption so much that I hate it. I hate adoption, and I hope you hate it too. When a child is adopted, something has gone wrong. It is not the right path for that child. The preferred path didn't work out for one reason or another. And it is awful. Like, we shouldn't want that for kids. And yes, we should celebrate adoption and be glad for it. And I recommend adoption, but there is a sadness every time it happens. And in these cases where women are being paid to be surrogates, somebody is intentionally creating an orphan. That child grew in the womb of a woman for 9 months. That child knows that woman's voice and knows her heartbeat and is intimately connected to her in ways that are almost magical. And that child was intentionally created to be stripped away from that woman on purpose. Something didn't go wrong to make that happen. It was chosen for the child, for that to happen on purpose. That's just not right. And I don't like it. And I hope that Oregon and any other place that allows compensated surrogacy ends the practice soon. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. And let me know why. I had fun, and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.